things. They're awfully scrumptious. Did I ever tell you about the time I dated someone from Clom? Oh, don't get me started on the Moxable hoon. Crikey! Oh, I'm ever so sorry. Probably. Look at me, walking into the wrong podcast booth. But hey-ho! Last time I did this, I was all crispy and had no sense of humour or style, so I may as well keep on talking and update you all. Oh, anything to keep me busy, considering the doctor won't answer my calls. And by calls, I mean causing chaos. It's our way of flirting after all. So, what should this podcast thingy be about, eh? I could tell you the story about how I pushed that girl into a volcano, or the time I fought the Daleks off with a pointy stick. Okay, so you don't want to listen to all that. Slightly rude. But I believe I have a story that will send shivers down your spine and perhaps keep you entertained. Maybe not the first one, but come on. I can't do everything around here. This is the story about when I destroyed Gallifrey. Are you sitting comfortably? Don't answer. I really don't care. Began on a Mondasian colony ship, although if you want to do this chronologically, and trust me, that's a continuity nightmare, so don't even try it, hun. It all started in the House of Oakdown on Gallifrey. That is where I grew up for the most part, and they have this lovely painting of me named The Painting of Evil. Fitting name, although the portrait is slightly outdated, as I got the upgrade. I like to call this the segment of the podcast. Actually, I don't have a name for it, but it's me judging my previous incarnations. Whee! Let's go! So, we have the first one, aka me when I was a wee boy for the first time. He wasn't quite evil yet, but a genius nonetheless. And then he grew up, and we don't talk about him. Nobody likes him, not even myself. And then we have the War Chief. Controversial, including him, but who cares? Absolute banger of a master. And let's skip to the best of the best. Mr. Beardy himself, who sets the standard for every other one of my other lives. The Crispies just remind me of all that agony, so let's not go there. The other Beardy, and what a joy I had causing chaos in that incarnation. I used to love that red car. I still have it in the garage. And then I was a snake for a while. Well, after the Canadian, but I wasn't him for long. But being a snake was not pleasant, shall we say. It was so fun being Bruce. I used to love to dress for the occasion, and I just had so much fun. Let's not forget Baldy! I love being him. Then we had the Time War. Then I regressed to a child once again and continued to fight until the next Beardy. And boy, was he terrifying. Then we have the wee drummer boy, and I'll get to him in a second, and the next incarnation. Overall, I've had a solid run and have no idea why I did this segment, when all but one of me are perfect. They are also my worst enemy. Never trust anyone, especially my other lives. They know me better than anyone, and they are pure evil. I have betrayed myself quite a few times, and I will do it again. Now back to the Mondasian colony ship, because that's where the gossip truly gets interesting. Well, unless you want me to delve into the times that I've assassinated presidents of Gallifrey or committed a few genocides here and there, but you've got better things to do than that. I ruled over the Mondasian colony ship for a while. Oh, what a lovely 10 years that was, until, of course, I had to pick a disguise and mess with things in a less conspicuous way. Which at first was boring, until one of the Doctor's playthings came along. And I can't really remember it too much, but oh, did I have a lot of fun! An abundance of fun, if you will. Now, basically, there was this big fight in the ship, and I decided against standing with the Doctor, as I do. And then I fled the ship after being murdered somehow, faced several generations of Cybermen after the Tolossian Cybermen somehow made their way onto the ship, and then, once again, fled. I don't like fleeing. It's really annoying. But I was in a bit of a jiffy as I was regenerating. Next thing you know, I landed on an asteroid. I say landed, I mean more crash landed, as you do. I had to find a way to prevent my regeneration, or at the very least, choose who I was going to regenerate into. I remember very little, other than facing one of the Doctors as I do after rising to power, eating a few aliens which I'm still picking out of my teeth to this very day, alongside that chicken, picking up my daughter and murdering the family that adopted her. Built a statue of the Doctor with that annoying bow tie, and I believe I held the Festival of Offerings and murdered my daughter, etc., etc. At the time, I was very conflicted on whether I would stand with the Doctor again, and as we know, I never will. So I fought off whatever the next incarnation was and decided for myself, out of sheer willpower, on who I wanted to be next. Side note, I didn't stay on that asteroid during my reign, and did get up to a lot more during that time, but that really isn't relevant. What is relevant is the incarnation after that. Now, that incarnation was a feisty one, even more insane than the hungry one with the drums. It was what I learnt at the time that drove me to fight. After I regenerated above Earth, I decided upon venturing into the Matrix. I still had a bit of Matrix technology from when I left the last time that I smuggled out, so it really was rather easy sneaking back in. Few dead Time Lords here, few dead Time Lords there. And I'm in. The last time I raided the Matrix was when I had the beard. And had that pitiful body from Traken, which I introduced to fashion, and a little bit of genocide. There is more to my visit to Gallifrey this time than that, though, as I decided to find my old home. It was hidden, as were many of the ancient houses that I found, and what I found changed everything. This weapon of mass destruction was, although inferior to the Hand of Omega, was everything I needed to make a planet completely uninhabitable. The scroll was hidden by that of myself when I was a mere time tot. This scroll is something I had forgotten about until I saw it. It was seen as a curse by the Shibogans, but to me, it was my key to the ultimate victory. This scroll was relatively recent compared to the others, and trust me, I've had a read of quite a few of them. These scrolls were deemed too dangerous by the High Council and stored away for the rest of time. I have a way of gaining access naturally. I mean, it's me we're talking about here. So, I buried it within my room. A room that remained intact because I time-locked it and hid it away within the hidden house. Oh the Time Lords had other worries at the time when I returned, such as how they could sustain themselves locked away. Oh, the threat of the Doctor and the whole hybrid situation, which I, myself, am yet to live through. So don't be a bitch and spoil it for me. Thus, it was easy to sneak past most of them, and I hate to brag, but I still have quite a big following amongst some of the local cults. Shame, real shame they weren't spared as they foolishly thought they would be. I finally had my hands on the weapon. A scroll that within it are the conflicting accounts of Gallifrey's creation, and alongside that, the curse. The curse being the conflicting accounts of the president that was ruling around the time both me and the Doctor left Gallifrey. And what's so cursed about that, you ask? Well, before I continue, I'm obliged to say that this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Global Chemicals, making your life easier and refining oil with no waste in sight since the 70s. Or was that the 80s? Oh, who cares? Just invest in Global Chemicals today. Now, where was I? Ah, yes, the curse. Long story short, there were two presidents of Gallifrey at the same time. How is that possible, you ask? Well, maybe stop asking questions and button it! So, where was I? Ah, yes, the two presidents. The presidents at the time were Pandad VII and Slan. They were both cursed by an ancient being which was then locked away in the Axis, which is a Time Lord dumpster for failed experiments. This curse eventually led to their coinciding deaths. When Pandad died of an accident, when the power relay in his office overloaded, and at the same time Slan was assassinated by moi. Following so far? I didn't think so. But you get the point. Two Time Lord presidents ruled at the same time and died at the same time due to a curse, as written in the scroll, which eventually became known as the Curse of the Two Presidents. Time Lords really aren't known for subtlety. So I grabbed this weapon, couldn't care less about these so-called conflicting accounts, and made my way through the Matrix. I often go into the Matrix to watch wars unfold and mess with the Doctor by finding hidden incarnations or looking for embarrassing memories to torment him with. But this time was different. This time affected me more than it did him, and that made me angrier than ever. My rage was unparalleled, and my fury was all I had left. The secret of the timeless child was now in my mind, constantly, and it hurt. My mind was burning, and for a split second the drums came back, but then they were gone. And all I had on my mind was revenge, and it was as if it had possessed me. Not the first time, and certainly not the last time that has happened. Once again, this time was different. The only reason I exist was because of the Doctor, because of what they did to him as a child, and I despise them not only for how they treated him, but because how he has been right the entire time. They claim to be important every 5 seconds, and I just want to murder them like you have no idea. They may not be important now, but then, pah! I can't quite remember all of it now, or how I regenerated from him to who I am now. I remember unleashing the curse and watching the chaos unfold, tearing apart the planet for me to stand over the ruins. Blah, blah, blah. The amnesia is still wearing off from when I regenerated. All I know is that the chaos I unleash will now be magnificent. Now we get on to our next segment, which is, what planet should I destroy first? Earth, Alpha Centauri, Peladon, or Ravskor Avkolos? I think the last one sounds like fun. Now who's next week's host? The Emperor? Sounds familiar, but as the best host, I don't care. Well, that's it, folks. Oh, and one last thing before I leave this booth to go torment the doctor once again with his birthday present I've been working on. He always forgets, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't even remember his own age. Remember, do not be a bitch. And don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official YouTube channel. Whee!